Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome here to Pole Day qualifying as we're going to set our 42 truck field in tomorrow afternoon's Coca-Cola Super Speedway race, the first race of the second season of the Craftsman Truck Series. As we're excited to be here at Coca-Cola, continuing our race weekend. We've had a great, interesting race weekend, as we've already saw from the Winston Cup Series lads, as they put on one hell of a show in both the Clash, and we also already know the 42 drivers that will start in Sunday's race. If you haven't seen the qualifying session for the Winston Cup Series, go check it out before you watch this video, because let me warn you, spoilers, spoilers, spoilers. As far as that is concerned, Ashton Ingersoll is the first driver out on the track in the number 64 in that 64 Chevrolet. This is the same ride he drove last season to 2 wins last season. Unfortunately, those 2 wins happened during the playoffs for for the number 64. As a result, did not make it into the playoffs, but at least he got 2 wins to show for it from last season. So maybe possibly a championship contender this season we're going to see. Hopefully that will be the case here this weekend. As he is the first car onto the track, as he starts his first time lap, because his pit stall is in front of the start finish line, so he is in good shape. I'm going to have the ticker up. I'll try to get a new ticker. If somebody wanted to make a ticker for me, like make the World Racing Association ticker and then send it to me, let me know, so that way I can work on ticker, so I can have a good WRA ticker. Already got some times on the board. As far as that is concerned, looking to see if I've made any mistakes. Looks like I have not, so 42 drivers here for the 42 starting spots. Nobody goes home. Everybody that was entered in this race will get the race tomorrow afternoon. Ashton Ingersoll is currently on the first lap, and it's a 58.681 for the number 64 machine. That's Gretchen Mueller in the 52, replacing Shohei Alinsky. Alinsky was off to the Marines, so we'll see how the German driver will do. That's Skylar Davidson in the 36 machine. That unsponsored Ford F-Series. This is the car that Shyla Askarov ran last season. Sophia Woodward in the 11 machine, the Hooters Ford F-Series. Sophia Woodward, we've seen her in Cricket Cup Series, making her Craftsman Truck Series debut. Looking to see what she can do in this number 11 machine. This is the ride Jesse Art put into the playoffs last season. Ingrid Pollard back for a second season with Super Chips as the sponsorship on her Ford F-Series out of Roush Racing. Roush has already had a dismal start. The 97 in the Winston Cup Series failed to qualify with Marty Stevens behind the wheel. But thankfully, they don't have to worry about D&Qs in this series, because remember, we have 42 trucks here for the 42 starting spots. Nobody had to go home. Everybody is locked into the show just like that. Luis Hernandez back for a second season in the Tide ride, the Tide 17. Of course, Timmy Turner runs the Tide car in the Winston Cup Series, was involved in that big wreck over in turns 1 and 2. So there you go. Of course, the only on-track activity we've had here this weekend has been the Winston Cup Series drivers, so we've already had enough rubber down on the track, so the Craftsman trucks and Busch drivers will not have to worry about lack of grip now that they have grip thanks to the Winston Cup Series compadres. As Addison Peterson in the number 6, and joining me is the driver of the number 7 Harris Chevrolet for Robbie Gordon Motorsports, Senor Sean, as we're looking at Addison Peterson. Will you cut that out? Addison Peterson replacing Olivia Jackson, who's up in the Busch Series for Season 2. See how she will do in that number 6 machine for the full season. Mohammed Zain in the 00 tried to make it into the Winston Cup Series race on Sunday. Unfortunately, just came up a bit short, so he's running full time in the Craftsman Truck Series. Dylan Ibrahimian, we will see him on Sunday as he will run the Winston Cup Series as he runs the number 50 Dodge for Arnold Racing. He was one of those drivers that had to make the show on time due to the fact that truck or that 50 car had no points to fall back to get a provisional. And speaking of the number 50, that's Lucy Granger in the 50 machine. Lucy running part-time this season here in the in the Truck Series. Going to run full-time in Busch. Running the Navy Ford F Series. That's Maisie Creighton in front of her, back for a second season. As we have a quacking duck in the booth. I don't know why. Erica Douglas in the 78. She's very fortunate to make the show this week, because remember, with only 42 drivers showing up for 42 spots, nobody going home, she is in the show. Will race tomorrow afternoon. As we're looking at Dylan Cunningham, will you cut that out? I know you were going to do that. As back to Dylan Cunningham as he's in the 4, the Square D Dodge. This is a driver who just recently signed up before I started recording this session. It is the 08. If I go back to that's Mike Simpson in the 08. Good thing for Mike Simpson. He's locked in the show as Sean got hit with something. Not sure what he got hit by as we're looking at Zachy Panini. As he's a rookie. Abigail Furling. She caught a lucky break. Got a get out of jail free card as she's locked in the show, thankfully. Not having to worry about having to qualify her way in on time. Anna Berger, one of our new DVR girls. The Austrian driver. One of the only Austrian driver we have in this field, so that's cool. Ruby White. We haven't seen Ruby White since the Diva Truck Series, which is interesting. The 67th, that is driven by Sasha Bright. Sasha Bright and Zachy Panini are in this series. Maria Steiner in the 86 in the Speed Chevrolet, making her debut. Rogel Dorn in the 91. He's glad he doesn't have to worry about qualifying his way into the show. Michael Brown just made the Winston Cup race you'll see on Sunday, as he will be racing with Senor Sean as well as the other 40 drivers in that series. There's Shyla Ascroft we just mentioned, driving the Team ASC Dodge, replacing the now banned Jared Underhill. Tatiana Guerra. This is the same ride Naguera drove in the Diva Truck Series, the number 20 machine. We already mentioned about Daniel Gitteroth. That's Bora Park, and that's Dara Schmidt, the first Moldovan driver we have in the Truck Series, which is cool. Bora Park, the only South Korean driver we have in this series. Danny Johnson, currently 13th quickest right now in the Sprint PCS Chevrolet. He's replacing Jared Johnson, which Jared Johnson ended up getting released from this team. There's Lucian Bianchi. Good to see Lucian back in a competitive series. Anna Steiner in the 59. Victoria Hughes looking to build off a good season. Alina Ritchie in the 1. There's Anthony Ritchie, Samit Ozkin, Timo Mauser replacing one of Cody's drivers. I can't think of the top of my head. Cody Goforth going to the pits. That's Carlos Rodriguez. He just made the Winston Cup race for Sunday. There's Mark Games from Double X. Ashlyn Wright, she has made all 3 races this weekend, as she's going to be a busy lady, the 18-year-old from North Dakota. I do not think we've ever had a driver from North Dakota, if I recall, in the NR community, as far as that's concerned. Sam Vickers, and there's Trinity Lee. And I'm trying to see if I missed anybody. I hope I did not. Maisie Creighton just went to pit road. I just mentioned Cody Goforth. And it looks like I did get everybody. So Oh, no, I forgot one. Cheyenne Berkshire, who, by the way, is the quickest in this qualifying session. Cheyenne Berkshire driving for Ricky Cervantes in season number 2, as we're looking at Doris Schmidt, Danny Johnson, all those other people. Of course, Sean Art, you just took part in Winston Cup Series, the clash in the and pole day qualifying we had on Sunday. Of course, that was the last time we had on-track activity was Sunday. Today is, as of this recording, on Thursday. And Sean, I'll ask you this. You're starting 36 on Sunday, which if this was like a road course or a mile and a half, you have your work cut out. But since this is a restrictor plate, does that change the complexion knowing, you're, starting 36 don't mean a lot on a plate track versus, let's say, like a road course or a short track or a mile and a half?
Yeah, really. Here's the thing. That's always what the good things about tracks like Daytona and Talladega. You can have a terrible qualifying position, but it will make up in the race if you can be up there at the right moment to win. And that's what a lot of people think. You don't have to be the fastest car during qualifying, but it's a good thing to have a race full of drivers that is going to cause a bunch of calamity.
And you were in the clash on Saturday in the Coca-Cola Clash, and of course that race was 42 laps, and we saw, drivers like hit the apron in the Cup cars because we saw in the Clash on Saturday when the 15 and the 0 or the 15 of Seaman hit the apron, took out another driver, and then we had incidents under the yellow flag. Do you think with what the Truck Series and the Busch Series drivers were watching that clash, and of course you were in that race, do you think that's going to be something we're going to have to keep our eye on during this weekend, like what we saw in the Winston Cup Series so far this speed week? I think Sean just went muted, so as we're looking at Trinity Lee, I think that's going to be something we're going to keep our eye on during this weekend. As Skylar Davidson, second quickest, she would be on the front row for tomorrow afternoon's race. Mark Simpson, 35th quickest. And like Sean mentioned, it doesn't matter if you start 35th, 36th. Of course, Nathan Orman starts 27th on Sunday when we bring you the Winston Cup Series race. And this is a good size pack right here. Who is the slowest, you ask? The 66, which is that, I believe, is Anna Berger. Yes, it is. But really, as Sean said, really it's not going to matter. Speaking of Anna Berger, there she is, right behind Lucy Granger. As we're down to 90 seconds left to go here in pole day qualifying. These Truck Series drivers will go green at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tomorrow. Before that, we will have the Busch qualifying. Of course, Sean's sister, Jessie Art, is going to be in that qualifying session tomorrow, as we'll bring you Busch qualifying at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then we'll have the truck race tomorrow afternoon at 3. The Busch race will be at 3 p.m. on Saturday. And then Sunday, we'll get ready for the first race of the second season of the Winston Cup Series. Hope you will join us for that. This is the only on-track activity for today on this Thursday afternoon, because like I said, we have not had any on-track activity since we set our grid for the Winston Cup Series on Sunday. This is the only weekend we're going to have Winston Cup Series going first for pole day qualifying. Beginning next week at Rockingham, that will be a completely different story. It'll be the Truck Series that will kick off the race weekend with pole day qualifying next Thursday. Busch Series qualifying next Friday. Truck Series race on Friday. Winston Cup pole day qualifying on Saturday, which will have 2 rounds. The Busch race on Saturday. The Winston Cup race next Sunday from The Rock. As we're down to the final 10 seconds. That is it. Time is up. Laps will count. As I'm going to go ahead and delete some stuff. Sean, by the way, is cooking dinner. And these drivers will be going to dinner.
I'm not cooking dinner, you.
Well, I'm sorry. But I was going to ask you the question. Of course, you ran the Clash race. Do you think we're going to see a lot of drivers hit the apron under the yellow flag like what we saw in the Cup race in the Clash last Saturday?
Well, that depends, really. Here's the thing. When you're under caution here, it gets a little bit tricky trying to slow everybody down. Especially when you're going 3 wide for this track, it could get a little tricky.
Oh, definitely. It's going to get tricky. And looks like that is it for qualifying here today. And of course, your sister probably came and talked to you after the race and, probably asked you what were the track conditions like because it was a hot, slick racetrack. That's another factor I think we're going to see possibly if we have a sunny condition versus like a cloudy condition where a track's going to have a lot of grip. Because remember, the Winston Cup cars had cloudy conditions last Sunday for qualifying, as that is it for the grid. But I'll go ahead and finish my point. They had cloudy conditions, so grip was a lot different versus in sunny conditions.
Well, also, you don't know what happened in between the time period of qualifying for the Cup Series versus today.
Exactly. Cheyenne Berkshire will get the pole for today. 54.646. And let me look here at the time. The Cup, of course, that is, that's the slowest. Of course, qualifying for the Cup Series was like a 42.776, but that's that's because the Truck Series is a lot different than like a Winston Cup or a Busch car. Skylar Davidson will be on the outside of the front row. Sam Vickers, Cody Goforth will make up row 2. Ingrid Pollard, Dylan Ibrahimian, row 3. Ashton Ingersoll, Danny Johnson, row 4. Victoria Hughes, Alina Ritchie will complete your top 10. I think the other thing you and I would agree on, Senor, is experience versus inexperience. We're going to definitely see it in all 3 races this weekend as you look at the rest of the qualifying results. Look at all these drivers. Look at all these rookies starting at the rear of the field. Dylan Cunningham got some work to do. Gitteroth, who failed to qualify. Carlos Rodriguez, who's doing all 3 races this weekend. Same with Ashlyn Wright. Not good qualifying efforts for them. But remember, as I talked about on Sunday in Cup qualifying, it doesn't matter if you've qualified 35th, 40th, or 42nd in the case of Anna Berger and Erica Douglas. That's a couple of my DVR girls starting near the rear of the field. But you can pass. Track position is going to be important, and race conditions could be different compared to what we will see, as far as that's concerned. Because, like I said, this is the only series other than the Cup Series that have had on-track activity, and we're also going to have the Busch Series race or Busch qualifying tomorrow at 1 p.m. So probably some more rubber will be put on the track before the truck race tomorrow afternoon. But that is your grid right there for tomorrow afternoon's race. Congratulations to Cheyenne Berkshire on the win. Any final thoughts, Sean, before we wrap it up?
No.
All right, so we hope you guys enjoyed this qualifying session. Thank you to Sean for joining me for this qualifying session, which thankfully was only 15 minutes. If you did, be sure to give this video a like, subscribe to become part of the World Racing Association crew today. We've shown you your starting lineup for tomorrow afternoon's race. Tomorrow at 1, we have the Busch qualifying to find out who will start on the pole for that race. Then we'll have these truckers go green flag racing at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. Then we'll have the Busch race at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then Sunday at 1, the Winston Cup Series season opener. Until then, for Sean Hart, I'm Dee DeVos. Thank you for joining me, and thank you for watching another broadcast of the World Racing Association, the greatest racing since 2013. Until then,